Hi, welcome to the Andrew Buckle comic review of Detective Comics number 27, original copy. No, it's not. It's facsimile copy, of course. It just come out and it's $6.99, though I paid slightly a little bit more than that in UK money, always the way. However, 64 pages it says of action. The GCD says 68, obviously includes the cover, etc. But still, great to have these facsimiles. I love the back pages. They've got all the various things. I love all the various things as well. Blank cartridge pistols and stuff. Throw your voice. There's a lot of odd things on this. G-Men badge, etc. Yeah, midget. Of course, long gone, all these adverts on the back. You'll notice one thing. It's not that wide, nor is it slightly as tall as the Golden Age comics. Now, I've just got a Golden Age comic here, and I'm just going to show you. This one's All American Comics from 1943. That's my oldest comic. And you can see, obviously, slightly less the width. And also, it seems to be slightly shorter as well. Don't know, maybe that's just me, but still, it is quite a bit of a difference there. So I assume, and I don't know, that they've compressed it in some way, because clearly, obviously, it's not that width. But it would have been nice to have actually had it in the original format. But even nicer would have been if they had done this. Famous first edition. Now, of course, this Batman comic has been done in this format before, back in the 70s. But it still would be nice if they brought it out in a lovely hardback version with lots and lots of wonderful articles as well. I love this book. Absolutely brilliant. New fun. Any sort of facsimiles of this period are always great. Because, of course, comics are like 3 point whatever, 1 million, 2 million, whatever it is this week. It's probably 5 million this week. Who knows? But still, 64 pages action. Let's just go through the comic. And it's very odd, actually, when you go through these comics. You've got, of course, the black and white page there. And they've done that very nicely. It looks very good quality all the way through. And also, the paper quality is nice. It's not on glossy, so you've got it nicely on matte, which is absolutely something that's brilliant. Always ruins it when they put it on glossy. I think Marvel, when they release theirs, quite often they're on glossy. I don't like that. Put it on the near enough as much as possible. Obviously, it's probably not exactly the same paper quality as the original, I can tell from this one, but hard to say. I'm not very good at telling paper quality, but to me it's as good as it's going to get, probably. It's a Batman, very odd story. In fact, I love the fact that it says his identity remains unknown. When you read these things, a lone battle against his lone battle. So at that point, lone battle, no Robin at this point. Obviously, that didn't last very long, but you've got Robert Kane. Also very odd, isn't it, when it puts Robert... It doesn't put Bob Kane. It puts Robert Kane, but with a... Yeah, most odd. The case of the Chemical Syndicate. The story is fine. Whenever I look at these things, I always wonder, why does this one succeed more than Slam Bradley or the Crimson Avenger, who's also in the comic? Now, I mean, they're basically the same story. They're punch-ups. But this Batman does have a bit of a mystery. There's a bit of a more of an element of that. Also, he's got a cast, which is quite obviously. You've got Commissioner Gordon. At this point, of course, Commissioner Gordon could be Batman. We don't know. We don't know that Bruce Wayne is going to be Batman. Everyone probably guessed, though you probably skip past that very quickly. That's no one except the fellow they call the Batman. So clearly, Batman had been doing some adventures before this story, stories that we do not know about. I'm surprised they've never done or maybe they have. Someone's going to write to me and say, yes, they have done stories prequel to the Batman. I guess they have. They've always done ones, obviously, Gotham. All the stories were pre-Batman. So you got this, but it's quite violent, basically. You've got a lovely, look at that throw there. Flying through space. Well, a bit of space anyway. But Batman swiftly picks up. But it's only a very short story. That's it. In the 64 pages of action, there's no like 2 or 3 stories of the Batman. They weren't pushing it in the first one. But it's actually quite violent. And there's an end scene, which I'm not going to show. But the quality is superb. I mean, it's really sharp. I think it's absolutely fine. Absolutely brilliant. But lots of, like, say, violent action in it. And the end bit, which is something probably that you wouldn't see nowadays. I'm certain they would not do. But actually at the start, they do put here, produced a time when racism played a large part. Now, there's no racism in that one, but there's definitely some stories that are a bit... But they always have to put that at the end, down there. Right, next story. So let's get off Batman. Weirdly, the next one is Tenderfoot. doesn't really sort of fit with the sort of detective comics thing. Very an unusual one to add in here. But you've got a little advert there for Superman appears in Action Comics. Obviously at this point he didn't have his own comic. So you've got another one down the bottom. You've got Speed Saunders. This is an unusual one. Killers of Kurdistan. But still an absolutely reasonable story. Though the artwork is a bit clunky, a bit wooden. I mean, you can really see the difference. Look at that. The guy, Red Crescent, Red Moon. Obviously, it's Batman still, in terms of a detective, someone pondering various things. But it's a very wooden bit of artwork there. Still, I mean, it's fine. I don't know, how long these pages would. They would probably churn these pages out quite quickly, I imagine, back at the day. But next one, what's the next one? Oh, most of the stories are only about 5 or 6 pages. And you've got this one, a duotone one, which is very Buck Marshall. Really odd that they included a Western, but Westerns obviously were very popular back then. So I guess that was a good idea, but detectives, and there were of course lots of pulp magazines that were detectives, Western detective, I'm certain, spicy Western detective with, etc., etc. But I'm surprised they didn't do a science fiction one. A sort of Buck Rogers, because Buck Rogers was quite popular at the time. I would have thought a detective in space story would have been a good one. Or maybe a Weird Tales one. Of course, Weird Tales did have a few detectives. Jules Grandin, those sort of things. There must have been others as well. But I'm surprised they didn't include one. That would have been quite really a good addition to this detective comics. Because this was number 27, so it had been going for a while before that. So some of the characters, Slam Bradley was first issue of Detective Comics, or was it Action Comics? One of the two, anyway. It certainly was a lot earlier than Batman. So you got that story. I mean, some basic Western story, etc. Lots of guy going around. Obviously, some baddies trying to break into a safe, all those sorts of things. It's like been done a million times, but still. The next story, Spy. This was obviously done at the same time as Superman. And the thing is about it is the character looks remarkably like Superman by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And you've got there. Probably even looks like Lois Lane, I must admit. Lois Lane's changed a bit from the early days. You've got here, see if I can see the character. Oh yeah, I was going to point that out. You can see, I mean, that is basically Superman. You got Superman there in that story. The next story, Crimson Avenger. Why does this one fail? Well, it doesn't fail. Obviously, Crimson Avenger continued for quite a while. I think he was in the Seven Soldiers, that sort of stuff as well. So he wasn't a total, but still, Crimson Avenger, it was never a major player. I'm not really familiar with any Crimson Avenger films recently. It would be nice. Actually, I would love to see Crimson Avenger. They could have included him in the Stargirl, because of course they had Seven Soldiers. But still, decent enough story, and nothing wrong with it at all. But why does this one suddenly not be as great as the Batman? Batman does seem to have a bit of a mystery, a sort of element of, wow. There's something special about Batman, whereas you just, when you look at this, you don't really feel it's just a guy in a very badly designed cape. Frankly, I'm not certain that would be a really good idea. If you're going to go out trying to attack people, stop people doing various crimes, going around in that would not be a good idea. Might be okay for keeping the rain off, but really? You get caught up in it, wouldn't you? That's not very practical. Still, sort of point that out. But he's, of course, got guns and those sort of things in. Death on the Airways. They included quite a few of these ones as well, these stories. This is the only one in this one, but still, these ones are always weird. Quite often I do actually read through them. I think, they're not always brilliant, but sometimes they're actually quite decent stories. But they're 2 pages. They needed them, obviously, for various postal reasons. I don't know. Been in the US, but apparently that was the reason why they included these. I love this one. Get a Daisy air rifle. There are lots and lots of these sort of things. Money, big prizes. Wow. Studio A. Now, no idea who did the artwork for that, but Bruce Nelson. Bruce was obviously a popular name back in this period, 1930s. And you've got here Tom Hickey. Very unusual story again. Not world's greatest, but still decent enough. There's a lovely scene where he shoots a snake. You can't beat a story that's got a shooting of a snake. As you would. I'm surprised they didn't put that at the front. They should have put that. What's the name's about animals? No. The Mysterious Dr. Fu Manchu. Very odd inclusion, and probably the reason why they had to include a bit at the front, because this story is a bit, well, a few scenes anyway. Yeah, actually, more than a few scenes. So I'm going to move off that one. Flatfoot Flanagan. This one's an unusual one, but again, obviously it's a police story, but it's a comedy one. Stamp collecting. I always love these ones. Stamp collecting. I don't know what the price is. Nice packet of old countries. Nice packet of old country stamps, maybe, but I think that's what I mean. Airmail stamps, lot US commemoratives, 120 stamps for, and all those sort of things. 62 different stamps for 5 cents. I'm certain that was great value. Well, this was 10 cents. Was it 10 cents? It was 10 cents, I'm certain. Unfortunately, the price is gone. So, Cosmo, the Phantom of Disguise. Now, this is another unusual one, and I love the lettering in this. The lettering's great. It's got there's 1 or 2 scenes where a knowledge of Chinese, and there's a little bit of a squiggle there. I'm not certain that looks like anything like Chinese. Well, it might be. I stand to be corrected on that one. Someone will probably say, yes, it is, but I don't know. But it's a duotone again, and that's, again, probably the reasons they had to include the front bit. Not going to show the story, so... But this one's a weird one. Plainclothes Pete by Alger. And this is like Mutt and Jeff. The style's Mutt and Jeff. Someone will probably turn around and say Mutt and Jeff. I don't know who did Mutt and Jeff, to be honest. But the style looks just so Mutt and Jeff-like. That sort of style, anyway. Very chunky. That's the best way to describe. And then Slam Bradley. This Slam Bradley was very early. I can't remember if it was Action Comics #1 or it was Detective Comics #1. Might have been Detective Comics, but it would make more sense being in Detective Comics. But still, I love all the cars. Lots of cars. Lots of scenes of cars. They were obviously very popular. Scenes of cars racing in the storyline. Darn Roadhog. Pull over! That's a pretty precarious... If you were like that was your... I think that would be pretty worrying, wouldn't it? Raisin. But this one actually is a longer story. It's a longer story than the Batman. A watch. Anyway, not going to spoil the story. Decent enough tale. And then onto the ads at the back. And of course, can't show it without showing the story. You can see there, all American comics and movie comics #2. I love these ones where it shows the old adverts. Complete movie show. Oh, apparently this one had Stagecoach with Claire Trevor, John Wayne, and The Saint Strikes Back with George Sanders. Always love The Saint Strikes Back. Or The Saint. However, I absolutely love this. I'm really pleased that they brought this out. It's always good. I would love to see them bring out other facsimiles even, of things like the first appearance of Flash. Obviously, again, they did those back in the day, but it would be nice to see a new one. Also, Green Lantern would come to mind. First appearance of Atom, first appearance of Spectre. It'd be nice to see those in this sort of... It's quite nice to see. Obviously, you can get them in the archive editions, but somehow, I think when it's done in a proper comic, it is much nicer because you've got all the... Though, weirdly, going through it, there's not many ads. Actually, that was something I thought about just then. When you flick through it, you can see not many ads. Ads at the sort of a few places, but a few tiny little ads, but not many. Very odd. Obviously, later on, there was like, I don't know. I'm just going to go. I'll just go back to this one quickly. Maybe this one doesn't have as... Yeah. No. Not many ads at all in that one, really. Very strange. Anyway, I just hadn't thought that. But still, really nice to get. So, number 27, I would suggest try and get it very quickly because quite often once these go out print, they do go quite expensive. Facsimiles. I don't know why, but they always do seem to go crazily priced. I suppose people suddenly think, you know what, I really want that one. So, number 27, really interesting little magazine. Not all the stories are that great. Batman, well, it's just always great to see the first story, isn't it? It's been reprinted, of course, loads of times, but still always fascinating to just look at it and see how it starts.